Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn Reckhow. I'm head of biz dev at Thesis, which is the venture studio behind Fold, Keepin' TBTC, Saddle, and our latest focus is Tally, the first community-owned and operated Web3 wallet. Today, I'm going to walk you through a saga that has been playing out in the Web3 metaverse since its inception. Now, you may not be familiar with the entire narrative, but you probably know some of these key players, and you've definitely heard this decentralization yarn spun before. This is a tale of two wallets. So, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Here, in the Web3 metaverse of 2022, we're seeing the crypto ecosystem shake out into two camps. On one side, on the far side over there, we've got the community-driven, open, bottom-up projects driven by brave anons and diverse, idealistic crypto creatures. And then, on the other side, we've got the megacorps. These are your large, centralized, institutional-friendly crypto conglomerates benefiting from the monopolies made possible by their early mover advantage. This tale shows us that in straying from their natural, free, and open habitats into the megatropolis of crypto conglomerates, even clever foxes can transform into fat cats. I'm going to talk to you about your wallets. Sure, you know about wallets, gateway to Web3, necessary infrastructure, but do you really know how your wallets operate behind the mask? Today's story illuminates an oft-obscured centralization point in an otherwise decentralized Web3 project and reminds us that it takes a community committed to decentralization to actually realize decentralization. So today we're moving towards a market that just two choices, right? MetaMask on one side, a wallet owned by a centralized conglomerate, and Tally, a truly decentralized, community-owned option. At Tally, we're building the wallet the open internet deserves. To us, that means access over privilege, open source over restrictive licensing, and community control over centralized profiteering. So, why is Tally the wallet the internet deserves, and why are we so concerned about building decentralized systems anyway? To us, decentralization means community ownership, individual agency, and distributed value generation. And this stands in contrast to the old familiar way that enterprises develop, conglomerates. So I think conglomerates are almost like the perfect modern day Dickens villain archetype, right? They're corpulent, self-serving, growing, always wanting more with very little regard for those around them. They're all about limited user ownership, private control over data, and they function via rent-seeking models. And conglomerates means marketplace monopolies. And if you need the Econ 101 refresher, monopolies are bad. They're bad for users, choice, freedom, all this stuff. This is a chart here from Eric Posner and Glenn Wheel's book, Radical Markets, where they're basically showing us that there are more and more monopolies in existence today, and those monopolies are charging more and more than they ever have before, all at the detriment of the little guys, right? The internet was built on the ideals of openness, decentralization, and collaboration. But along the way, the allure of advertising dollars distracted some of the best of us. And any new open internet that we're building must be built with decentralized open source methods. There's just absolutely no excuse for closing the doors on collaboration and returning to the parasitic rent-seeking business models of before. But it wasn't always this way on the path to Web3. So how did we get here? Taking a quick detour from the wallet story here, going to do a brief history lesson on how we got here, a history of open finance, and what we should take as a community from the enduring vision of an open internet. Starting with the grandfathers of open source software, peer-to-peer technologies like BitTorrent to the advent of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the metaverse we know today. All this stuff started with FOSS. FOSS stands for Free and Open Source Software. Open source means faster development of new ideas, free education for developers, stronger security, and enables anybody with talent and an internet connection to find and report bugs, to jump in and contribute, and work on governance. FOSS was once considered really fringe, but today there's no denying the enduring impact that it's had. Linux runs the majority of servers worldwide, software development is completely powered by Git, and even the largest tech corporations have policies in place to support open source software. And all of the decisions made in the early days of the internet to make software, protocols, browsers, open source did incredible good for the world and laid the foundation for everything that we do in crypto today. Hopefully, most of you guys know, Bitcoin and Ethereum was built entirely on open source software. One interesting parallel to today is early open source projects actually pioneered the template of collaboration and governance that DAOs strive to follow right now. In a lot of ways, you could even think of these open source projects as the first DAOs, right? This was just a bunch of strangers around the world coming together on the internet to build something new and just figure out how to govern themselves along the way. Next, before the advent of Bitcoin, we saw another piece of technology pave the way for open culture on the internet, BitTorrent. It brought books, games, music, movies into the reach of any tech-savvy kid, and it made finding, consuming, remixing culture really easy. This rise of peer-to-peer file-sharing tech was never about money. It was always about access, participation, curation, collection. And today, it's really awesome. We're seeing a rebirth of this remix culture in NFTs. You could say that NFTs are kind of like the spiritual success or spiritual predecessor, right, to ripping CDs, seeding torrents, and curating your library. Peer-to-peer NFT open market for culture turns consumption into collaboration and the community into like this super organism where everybody that is seeding culture is actually rewarded in the marketplace. Then Satoshi stepped on the scene. I think you all know the gospel. I will not get into it. But I will give you a quick segment from thesis history that illustrates how important this is. Back in 2014, when PayPal blocked payment processing for the thesis founder, Matt Luongo's first startup, which was a precursor to Fold, Matt jumped into action. And he quickly realized that the financial gatekeepers considered their business too risky, and convincing any other payment processor to take a chance on them was going to take resources and connections like far beyond their means as a first-time founder. So Matt jumped into action researching alternatives and discovered Bitcoin. And then just a few days down the rabbit hole, Matt had prototyped his own payment processor built entirely on Bitcoin. Boom, done. No meetings, no phone calls, legal agreements. He didn't have to put on a suit and go convince somebody to take a chance on him. It was just an incredibly empowering experience. And this first encounter with open finance, and I think it's one that hopefully a lot of you can relate to. And almost a decade later, as Ethereum is starting to deliver on its vision for an open, trustless, user-owned internet for all, we're seeing open finance grow up. Today, you can choose from an entire ecosystem of DeFi projects. You can trade and add liquidity on Uniswap. You can borrow and lend on Aave. You can manage risk on Hedgehog. And though we're calling this latest generation of services DeFi, decentralization is actually just a means to an end. The open, permissionless finance is a catalyst for the expansive future of user-directed communities, networks, and the social and technical fabric of the internet itself. And each new movement in this timeline has undermined traditional gatekeepers to unlock something greater, resulting in open networks with permissionless access and censorship resistance, consistently leading to new waves of innovation and user freedom. And the economic incentives of DeFi are accelerating this trend. In 2020, the fair launch of Yearn proved to be incredibly compelling, right? They radically rewarded their early users with real ownership, and that vaulted Yearn into one of the most significant projects and probably one of the most significant communities in the entire DeFi ecosystem. And that's because tokens turn users into owners. Shared vision and shared ownership make for some of the most powerful communities ever. Every user, fan, advocate can be incentivized to grow and maintain their favorite projects. And if we all succeed together, we all win. WAGB. But all of this open access and new models for ownership aren't really possible without a Web3 wallet, which is where we zoom back in to the story here of a tale of two wallets. MetaMask plays a huge role in the development of the early Ethereum ecosystem. The project started out aligned with the open source ethos of the space with the same values of our peer-to-peer FOSS forefathers. So MetaMask launched in 2016. They had this familiar browser UX that totally stood out amongst a sea of like these cryptographically obtuse products that nobody could use. And the Ethereum Foundation, I think, gave them some early grants, and they were quickly stewarded by a nascent consensus. So consensus is actually where I got my start in crypto. I was an early employee back in 2015, and I actually know the early MetaMask team really well. Aaron, Dan, Frankie, all incredible humans, and I worked alongside them with shared idealism as those early days unfolded. And I've always been in such awe of what that team was able to accomplish and pave for the Ethereum community in those early days. We wouldn't be where we are today without MetaMask. We never would have survived the ICO boom of 2017 and 2018, and I think for that, we're all really grateful. But all centralized projects have their reckoning day. This one landed on August 20th, 2020. On this day, MetaMask quietly scrapped its open MIT license, abandoning its commitment to free and open source software. And then a few months later, Consensus launched MetaMask Swap, which is an in-browser DEX that charges a fee going directly to the Consensus conglomerate, not to wallet users. And then a few months later, we saw Consensus announce a $65 million raise from JP Morgan. But let's take a look at what's going on with MetaSwap here. How did Consensus start to quietly take profit? So MetaSwap charges an enormous fee versus Uniswap, SushiSwap, 0x, and 1inch. This fee is as high as 1% per trade. And unlike all of those platforms I just mentioned, these tens of millions of dollars of fees that they're earning every month aren't going to users, right? Instead, they're going directly to a tightly held corporation, Consensus. And you can see that we're not the only ones to notice. Our friend Tom Schmidt here dove into the chain last spring and showed us what's really going on. And so you guys can see it's a lot of fees, a lot of money coming in. And despite years of community advocacy, MetaMask users aren't seeing a dime from this. And not to mention, recent MetaMask releases have included a number of choices that are pretty much at odds with what's best for user sovereignty, including blocking wallet access by country and increasing user surveillance. These are product choices that are pretty standard for Web 2, but in Web 3, we can do better, and we must do better. And from that conviction, Tally was born. August 20th, 2020, the idea seeded, And when Consensus launched Metaswap and started to suck up tens of millions in fees while no one was watching, that's when the full vision took hold. So as entrenched products move towards corporate capture, Tally poses an opportunity to deliver a wallet built on openness via its product, culture, and community. It's time to build the community-owned and operated Web3 wallet. And that means solving community problems as a community. And when I say problems, I'm talking about Web3 pain points. I'm gonna come down to earth for a minute from all that crypto idealism and talk about the day-to-day plights of a DeFi user, right? Greeting the fox with your morning coffee, clicking connect, about that actual experience of using MetaMask. I don't have to say much more. I think we all have our pain points and user experience frustrations. We know a lot needs to be better, and we're seeing the market move much faster than the product, and sadly, user experience is on the chopping block. And so that's how we started with Tally, asking our friends, what would it look like if a Web3 wallet met your needs today? And they told us a lot of stuff, but I think the most interesting point is that nobody had asked them this question, and if they had ever, shouted into the abyss for feature requests, nobody had listened. So these are some of the questions guiding the product vision. What if your wallet works seamlessly in DeFi? What if your ledger support worked as advertised? It might look something like this. So the first wallet release is going to focus on open finance and will work its way across today's DeFi ecosystem. Anywhere you can use MetaMask today to swap, farm, lend, borrow, you'll be able to do that with Tally. And Tally's launch is also going to open up a number of yield opportunities, integrating tightly with Yearn and other aggregators to make earning passive yield as easy as opening a savings account. And instead of enriching a select few, all fees generated by the wallet will go to users, bootstrapping a robust community. So come build with us. We've open sourced our code already. We've had 4 audits and are engaging in a 5th. And at the end of the year in December, we launched a limited alpha edition available for our community on Discord. And we called it the Community Edition. You guys can jump in and follow that link, download the Chrome extension, and try it out. Tell us what you think. Jump in our Discord. We just launched swaps, so you can try it out yourself. And I'm gonna brag about the community for a second. This is really the greatest asset. Since we opened up the Discord in August, we've already hit 11,000 people, and they're pretty active. Every week on Friday, we have a community call, and usually we get about 500 people every single week. And the community is taking on more and more project functions. For example, we just launched the Partnerships Pack, and these are community members that are reaching out to projects and forging all the partnerships and integrations with DeFi projects. We're only in this alpha, and we're already live with a whole bunch of dApps like Yearn and Synthetics, Saddle. Also, we've been pushing forward with our support of public goods and open source software. You may have seen that we sponsored ethers.js for all of 2022. And yesterday, we just announced our partnership with Gitcoin's new Aqueduct program. And 2.5% of our supply, we're going to propose that goes to public goods funding and Tally grants. We're pumped to be here at ETH Denver. Come find us and get yourself a Tally ETH Denver POAP. Trust me, you're gonna want this. You can find us in the shill zone. You can also go hang out with live puppies at Puppy Playtime in the Zen Zone, happening right now and all tomorrow afternoon. And lastly, if you're hacking, check out our bounties. We've got money for anybody that just integrates Tally as a wallet with their project, but we really want to see people hack on some new features like NFTs, Wallet Connect, multi-network support, and we're also really interested in seeing what you guys can contribute to the larger ecosystem. Tally is aiming for a DAO launch before the end of the quarter, so make sure that you're keeping one paw in our Discord for all the latest. And this is how to do that. We are at chat.tally.cash. That's our Discord. Thanks thanks, everybody. Carolyn Reckhow, it's my Twitter and Telegram. You can find me. And thanks for having me, Denver.